Greetings, welcome to W10U1 Criterion 9 Student Support and Governance. In the earlier unit, we understood the SCR requirements related to Criterion 8 Continuous Improvement. Now, we will move to the SCR requirements related to Criterion 9 Student Support and Governance. We will discuss the SCR requirements related to this criterion 9 in 4 parts. In this unit W10U1, the outcome is understand the subcriteria 9.1, 9.2 and 9.3. We will be covering the rest of criterion 9 in the units that follow. So, what are the features of criterion 9? The student support and governance. This is an institute level criterion. It is the only institute level criterion. All the remaining 8 are program level criteria. In the earlier SCR, it was different, but in the revised version, this is the only institute level criterion. It is concerned with student support and governance. And this criterion has the largest number of subcriteria, 14 in total. A very large number of subcriteria are concerned with the student support and governance. The total number of marks is 120 for both Tier 1 and Tier 2 institutes. However, the details are different in some aspects. In some aspects they are identical, but in some aspects there are differences. The subcriteria and allocation of marks for Tier 1 and Tier 2 institutes are shown in the next slide. This looks pretty big. We will be discussing actually all the subcriteria in this unit and in the units that follow, but just to see you get a overall view of this, put this slide. Looks pretty big and condensed one, and it looks slightly heavy, but essentially it shows that criterion 9 is a pretty elaborate criterion. As I said, the largest number of subcriteria 9.1 to 9.14, and some of them have further delimitations. So, there are a large number of issues which belong to criterion 9. So, this shows the allocation of marks of 120 for Tier 1 and Tier 2. You can see in some cases it is same. For example, if you see 9.2 mentoring system, both Tier 1 and Tier 2 they have 5 marks each. But on the other hand, if you see some other criteria like 9.6 governance and transparency, Tier 1 is 25 marks, whereas Tier 2 is only 15 marks. So, there are some places where they are identical, some places where they are different. Okay. We will go through all of this in this and in the coming units. Subcriteria 9.3 and 9.6. If you see 9.3 and 9.6, 9.3 is feedback analysis, 9.6 is governance and transparency. They are marked in blue. Subcriteria 9.3 and 9.6 are similar in spirit for both Tier 1 and Tier 2 institutes. However, their further breakup, allocations of marks, evaluation guidelines, context and documents to be observed and assessed are all different for Tier 1 and Tier 2 institutes. The remaining 12 subcriteria of the 14, 9.3 and 9.6 we talked. Now, the remaining 12 subcriteria, that is 9.1, 9.2, 9.4, 9.5, 9.7 to 9.14 are the same for both Tier 1 and Tier 2 institutes. Further, the evaluation guidelines are listed in detail for Tier 1 institutes only, while discussing this criterion in 4 parts. As I mentioned, 4 units we will discuss criterion 9. We will discuss the detailed breakup of the evaluation guidelines only for Tier 1 institutes. Please refer to the latest updates in the NBA website regarding the evaluation guidelines for Tier 2 institutes, that is the detailed breakups. The first subcriterion 9.1, first year student faculty ratio, FYSFR, first year student faculty ratio. There are 5 marks for both Tier 1 and Tier 2 institutes. Marks are allocated based on the average value of this ratio FYFSR computed for 3 consecutive academic years, CAY, CAY minus 1 and CAY minus 2, that is CAY, CAY M1 and CAY M2. It is calculated for each year separately, then the average is taken, and this average value is used to determine the marks to be allocated. Data for computing FYFSR for a given academic year, the same for 3 years. Sanctioned intake of all UG programs in that academic year. First you have to take the sanctioned intake of all UG programs. Let us call that as S4. We have used this kind of information in earlier also when we are looking at student information and faculty information, etc. Number of required faculty RF4 is based on maintaining a ratio of 1:20. So, if the sanctioned intake of all UG programs is S4, then S4 by 20 would be the required faculty. For the purpose of calculating this ratio, the required faculty is based on 1:20 ratio. So, number of required faculty RF4 is equal to S4 by 20. Notice this shows the typical calculation for 1 academic year. Similar thing we will have to do for 3 consecutive academic years. Number of faculty members in basic science courses and humanities and social sciences, including management courses, that is denoted as NS1. Of course, this depends upon how many sections we are having, what is the total sanction intake, and if we are running 2 cycles, how many sections are there for physics and how many sections are there for chemistry in each cycle. Because typically in almost all engineering colleges, in one cycle, one batch of students go through physics, the same batch in the next semester will go through chemistry. So, the faculty requirements for basic science courses and humanities and all would differ. So, based on how the first year classes for basic science courses, humanities and social sciences are scheduled, we will have to work out what will be the faculty that will be required from these departments, that is basic science courses, humanities and social sciences. Let us call that as NS1. Then number of faculty members in engineering science courses allocated exclusively for first year courses. Let us call that as NS2. There are again in almost all engineering colleges, there are certain courses which are taught by the faculty from engineering departments, like the names do differ, but something like elements of mechanical engineering or elements of civil engineering or strength of materials or elements of electronics engineering. Their names can differ, but there are certain courses for first year which are taught by faculty from the engineering departments. Now, if a faculty member from an engineering department is allocated exclusively for the first year courses, because there is enough workload usually, then those faculty members are counted here. So, number of faculty members in engineering science courses allocated exclusively for first year courses, let us call that as NS2. So, we have number of required faculty RF4, then basic science, humanities and social sciences NS1, then engineering science courses NS2. So, we have RF4, NS1 and NS2. Then the percentage is calculated as number of faculty members, they are taken in the ratio of 80-20 percentages, that is NS1 into 0.8 plus NS2 into 0.2. Recall NS1 is the basic science courses, humanities and social sciences including management. Then NS2 is engineering science courses. So, NS1 multiplied by 0.8 plus NS2 multiplied by 0.2. This becomes the numerator and divided by the number of required faculty RF4, and this is to maintain the ratio of 1:20. Okay. So, that is how the percentage is calculated. Just a numerical example to show. S4 is 300, that is the sanction intake. So, RF4 is S4 by 20, which is 300 by 20, which is 15. Then NS1 we are assuming there are 16 faculty members in basic sciences, humanities, etc. Then 2 from engineering sciences are exclusively devoted to first year courses. So, NS2 is 2. So, then FYSFR for this academic year would be 16 into 0.8 plus 2 into 0.2 divided by 15, which is 88 percentage. So, that is how for a given academic year FYSFR is calculated, and we repeat this for 3 academic years. Then the marks allocated are based on the average that we got for 3 years. If it is greater than 90%, then we get 5 marks. Then proportionately the marks go down as the percentage comes down, 80 to 90, 4 marks, like that. Less than 50% of the faculty members, 0 marks, we do not get any marks at all. So, based on the average of FYSFR for 3 years, the marks can be from 5, the maximum possible, to 0, it is possible if the FYSFR ratio is less than 50%. Okay. So, if you assume for example that the FYSFR which we showed one sample calculation for 3 years is 100%, 88% and 71.7%, then the average is 86.6%. So, as per the table it is between 80 and 90, so 4 marks. So, the marks awarded will be 4. That is how this calculation is done. The data is provided in a given format, we will show that format. This is how the data is provided, year CAY, CAY M1, CAY M2, then all the required data, sanction intake S4, required faculty RF4 S4 by 20, then NS1 faculty for humanities, basic sciences, etc., NS2 from engineering science courses, then the percentage, which as we have just seen in the example is NS1 into 0.8 plus NS2 into 0.2, and that is divided by the RF4. So, it shows an example calculation also, and the faculty required, as I mentioned, for physics, chemistry, mathematics, etc., would depend upon how the sections have been organized. Usually it will be organized in 2 cycles. So, based on that one can work out how many physics faculty would be required, how many chemistry would be required, and usually maths will be there for both cycles students. So, maths will be generally double that. So, that is how an example is also shown. So, marks are awarded based on the FYSFR as already indicated. The context to be observed and assessed, number of faculty calculation considering the faculty definition and fractional load, faculty appointment letters, these must be available for all the faculty that we are showing in the data. Faculty appointment letters must clearly indicate that they have the required qualifications, they have gone through the specified process and they are regularly appointed. For faculty, all the norms we have discussed in the earlier criteria also. So, all those criteria need to be followed. Then number of students calculation as mentioned in the SCR table we will have to show in this table. Okay. That is how this information is calculated. So, that is how the marks are awarded under sub criterion 9.1. Now, let us go to 9.2, the mentoring system. There are 5 marks allocated, same for both tier 1 and tier 2 institutes, and the guidelines are type of mentoring. Mentoring can be quite varied in its scope, and depending upon how the institute designs and implements the mentoring scheme, the scope can differ dramatically. So, the type of mentoring can be professional guidance, career advancement, it can be specific to coursework or laboratory work, it can be regarding all round development, which includes personality development and the career orientation, professional, everything put together, all round development. In fact, these can be elaborated further, saying what actually are the aspects to be covered under these kind of mentoring activities. But let us look at further. Then another issue is number of faculty mentors. The number of students who are allocated to one given faculty member, that is how many students or mentees are being looked after by one faculty member. So, the larger that number, obviously the lesser will be the attention that the faculty member can pay to individual students. So, what should be an ideal number? There is no hard and fast rule, but typically one faculty member can definitely comfortably look after 15 to 20 students without any issue. But of course, the numbers can differ based on the kind of facilities that are available, but we will show that the allocation is such that the mentoring activities are getting carried out effectively and efficiently. So, number of faculty members, number of students per mentor, then frequency of meeting, how frequently there are meetings between the mentors and mentees. So, at least once in a semester is desirable, twice a semester is good, less than that normally will not be of much use and effectiveness. The institution should report details of the mentoring system. That means there must be a clear process document indicating all these details, that is how many mentors, how many students per mentor, what should be the frequency of meetings between the mentor and mentees, then what is the way in which the meetings have to be recorded, what are the issues to be covered in these meetings, that is scope of the meetings. All this must be clearly written down as a process document, so that all the faculty are clear what is expected of them during the mentoring sessions. So, a clear document indicating the entire mentoring system must be available, and preferably if it is available on the website, that is still better, because then everyone can refer to that whenever they have a doubt. Then implementation and effectiveness through impact studies. The implementation records must be available, where the faculty have met the mentees and what has transpired during those meetings, those records must be available. And it is desirable if you can have certain records of stories of cases where the mentoring proved very effective in helping the students getting their problems solved. So, some kind of effective case studies showing how the mentoring has helped the student. Okay. So, implementation and effectiveness through impact studies. We have to show that the mentoring has been effective. So, some cases where it has really solved the problems of the students, if we can record them and provide details of such case histories, then it will be a good indication that the mentoring system is really effective. Then services both online and physical. Earlier mostly they were physical, but today with the advancement in the technologies, it has become possible to provide several services online also. So, there can be meetings, online meetings between the faculty and the students. So, what kind of services are available in such online meetings, and during physical meetings what kind of issues are discussed, they must be clear. Then it is also possible to extend this mentoring system slightly by involving the senior students, typically final year students. They can act as mentors for the juniors, typically first year students. So, they are mature enough to understand the system, and they are capable enough usually to provide the guidance to the first year students, and this is in addition to the faculty mentoring. So, they have certain advantage in the sense that the students have certain kind of camaraderie or togetherness, which helps them to become more effective as mentors. So, it is a desirable feature to have mentoring by seniors, typically final year students, to juniors, typically first year students. So, if you have implemented such system, then provide the details of such system. How is it implemented, how is it monitored further, and what is its effectiveness, all those issues. So, as I mentioned earlier, a written document describing the details of the mentoring system process must be available, because it avoids ambiguity and it makes it clear to everyone what is expected of a faculty mentor or even a student mentor. IQAC can develop this document in consultation with stakeholders if there is an IQAC. Otherwise, the departmental representatives can meet together and arrive at a common document. The advantage of that is that the mentoring would be uniform across all the programs. So, it is desirable to have one common document. The process document must include all the details noted in the earlier slide under the guidelines, that is type of mentoring, number of faculty members, number of students per mentor, frequency of mentoring sessions, all these details must be included in the process document. Identifying weak, bright students is also generally included in the scope of mentoring system, because they closely monitor the performance of the students who are under their mentorship. They can identify more easily the weak and bright students. So, in some mentoring systems, this task of identifying weak and bright students is also included in the scope of the mentoring. Weak students may need to be provided additional coaching as required. Bright students may need to be further encouraged by offering suitable challenges, maybe assignments of greater difficulty, greater innovation, or competitive exams which offer a scope for the brighter students to exercise their talents in a greater depth. Many of activities are possible. Details in the process document would include what all we have mentioned already. In addition, services both online and physical, on campus, off campus, details of the mechanisms for mentoring by seniors, as I mentioned, that is a very good practice if it can be implemented, final year students to juniors. Then problem escalation procedure, this is also extremely important. There can be situations where the particular faculty member is unable to resolve the issue that the student is facing, or there are several students who are facing a very similar issue, perhaps related to the institute level facilities. It could be, for example, drinking water. So, basically there are situations where the faculty member is unable to resolve the problem. If such a thing happens, what is the faculty member supposed to do? So, what is the problem escalation procedure? To whom is the mentor supposed to report? In some institutes, they have a hierarchical system, in the sense that individual faculty mentor reports to a departmental level in charge for mentoring system, typically like a deputy chief proctor or someone, and departmental level faculty coordinators in turn report to an institute level faculty coordinator responsible for mentoring system. It could be different system also, but essentially a faculty member should know what is the problem escalation procedure. Then format of the records of mentoring sessions, how are they to be recorded? It is desirable to maintain a record of specific case studies which illustrate the efficacy of the mentoring system. This, as I mentioned earlier, if there are situations where the mentoring has helped the students overcome some problems that they faced, it is a good practice to record such instances and showcase them to demonstrate the effectiveness of the mentoring system. It is a good practice to explain the scope and purpose of mentoring system to the new students, new faculty, instead of just leaving it for them to read the documents. It is good if the department can hold 1 or 2 sessions of interactions with new students and faculty and explain to them purpose of the mentoring system. IQAC must play an active and supporting role in all these activities. And if of course IQAC is not there, it is right time to start an IQAC in any institute. So, the mentoring system implementation, there are 2 marks, then its effectiveness 3 marks, and we must show documentary evidence showing the relevant activities. Then we have the feedback analysis, sub-criterion 9.3. Marks allocated for this sub-criterion different for tier 1 and tier 2 institutes. There are the same 2 sub-criteria for both tier 1 and tier 2 institutes. However, the marks allocated are different. So, feedback analysis has 2 sub-criteria. 9.3.1 feedback on teaching and learning process and corrective measures taken if any. 9.3.2 feedback on academic facilities. So, tier 1 institute, there are 10 marks, 5 for each of the 2 sub-criteria. Tier 2 institute, there are 20 marks, 10 marks for each of the 2 sub-criteria. Once again, I repeat, please refer to the NBA website for the latest update regarding the breakup of these marks, whether it is 10-10 or whether it is different. So, for tier 2 institutes, always refer to the latest information on the NBA website. So, 9.3.1 feedback on teaching and learning process and corrective measures taken if any. These corrective measures is also extremely important to record. Allocation of marks, as we saw, 5 for tier 1 institutes, 10 for tier 2 institutes. Provide details of the feedback collection process on teaching learning process. Average percentage of students who participate. It is not only the actual feedback collection process, whether it is anonymous, that is electronically collected, or whether it is a hard copy is available. Is there enough guarantee to ensure that the confidentiality of the students is protected? All these issues come up in the feedback collection process. Ideally, the student's identity should be protected when the student has to give the feedback, and the student's feedback should be anonymous, preferably electronically recorded. So, these issues are common practices of getting any good feedback process implemented. So, we have to look at the feedback collection process, a written document indicating how it is collected, the frequency, the questionnaire, the mode of collection, all this has to be recorded there. Then how many students are participating? Once again, it is very important to have interactive sessions with the students, explaining them the importance of providing truthful feedback, because the department values such a feedback to improve the processes. So, the students should not be under the impression that this is a mere formality. So, it is good practice to have interactive sessions with the students, and the head or someone senior can explain the importance of providing truthful feedback. So, specify the feedback mechanism and what is covered under feedback and all those things. Okay. So, a good percentage of students must participate in the feedback process. Specify the feedback analysis process. How is the data analyzed? What kind of data is collected and how is it analyzed? Then what is the basis of reward corrective measures during the assessment period? So, what kind of corrective measures are undertaken or what kind of rewards are provided? Specify the number of corrective measures taken. Over the years, what specific feedback analysis led to what specific corrective actions. So, show a record indicating that the department is taking the feedback process seriously and based on the analysis of the feedback data, corrective actions are indeed initiated. So, have records of the feedback data analysis and the corrective actions taken. Show the details of analysis done. A written document describing the details of the feedback process must be available. Once again, IQAC can develop this document in consultation with the stakeholders. The process document must include all the details indicated in the guidelines. Okay. They must clearly indicate data collection, how is the feedback data collected, the process of data collection, then how is it analyzed. So, what is the data analysis procedure, then corrective actions taken, and the document must clearly indicate all these three aspects, and the records must show that all these three are being implemented truthfully. Provide details of feedback format and questions in the feedback form. Obviously, the design of the feedback format itself is again has to be done very carefully. Preferably, one can take the help of departments like management departments, which are quite familiar with the design of these questionnaires, because the number of questions cannot be too small, then the details will not be adequate to take any corrective actions, nor the number of questions can be too high, then the students would generally get fatigued and they may not be able to give proper response, truthful feedback. After some time they may start giving in random replies. So, the number of questions should neither be too small nor too large, and questions must be simple, very easy to understand, simple, straightforward, and you must be able to student must be able to provide the answer relatively easily. So, the survey design, feedback format design has to be done carefully. Best is let IQAC take the help of departments like management department and design a format common for the entire institute. And a good practice is to periodically explain to the students the feedback process, its intent, the importance of providing honest feedback, etc. Otherwise, students may think that it is a very routine activity and no one really bothers about what kind of feedback they are giving. You must impress upon the students that their feedback is valued and it acts, the department acts on such a feedback. In fact, if you have case studies showing the actions initiated by the department in response to the feedback, showcase them, tell the students that your feedback is valuable. Maintain records of number of students participating in the surveys, compute the average percentage also, then corrective measures taken and their effectiveness. So, the evaluation guidelines and the marks and exhibits are shown here. Feedback questionnaire used 1 mark, methodology being followed for the analysis of feedback and its effectiveness 2 marks, then record of corrective measures taken and impact of such corrective measures 2 marks again, and the exhibits to be observed and assessed include the feedback questionnaire, the feedback collection process, analysis, actions taken and their effectiveness. Again, as I mentioned many times, refer NBA website for evaluation guidelines for Tier 2 institutes. Then feedback on academic facilities. Allocation of marks 5 for Tier 1 institutes and 10 for Tier 2 institutes. Once again refer to the NBA website for the latest information on Tier 2 institutes. Provide details of the feedback collection process on all academic facilities. Academic facilities would include the library facilities, the laboratory facilities, the classroom facilities, the teaching aids that are available, all these things will come under the academic facilities. And then what are the mechanisms by which this data is analyzed? So, the analysis process, then corrective actions taken during the assessment period. So, the guidelines are very clear. Feedback questionnaire used 1 mark, frequency of feedback collection and analysis 2 marks, and record of corrective measures taken 2 marks. So, that is how it is done, and this again for Tier 1. For Tier 2, please refer to the website. So, that completes the first 3 sub criteria of criterion 9. Criterion 9, the first 3 sub criteria 9.1, 9.2, 9.3. In the next unit, we will continue with criterion 9, but now we look at sub criteria 9.4, 9.5 and 9.6. That is criterion 9, student support and governance, but now sub criteria 9.4, 9.5 and 9.6. That is what we will see in the next unit. Thank you. We will meet again in the next unit. Thank you. Thank you.